go again. Good stuff. All right, we just recorded a little tech cast. Shouldn't be very long. Just basic down blocking reshot, and then basically from our duck into kind of a claw series. Just to help our guys out with avoiding locking hands and things of that nature. Got a little bonus footage in there as well. And just realized that I think this is episode 28. And I went and put my hat on because Chattanooga's going to be wrestling in Edinburgh. Not today, unfortunately, but coming up. I think this might be the first time I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen you wear a hat. I've seen you wear like toboggans and all that and beanies and stuff when it gets cold, but never a hat.
Cold. Yeah, I like hats. I used to rock hats a lot. But
all the time.
Yeah. So speaking of which, just got a pretty sly hat.
A sly fox hat.
There you go. So
yeah, it was a Christmas gift from him.
Yeah.
And it actually goes with our shirts pretty well.
It does go quite well. And well, I guess right into that then. That's one of the things we were going to talk about today was just Quantel, Just Heart Apparel. Hooked us up with some great shirts. They're awesome. Got that super soft material.
Oh, yeah.
Feel great. And got to hand some out at the tournament that we went to this last weekend. And just nothing but, again, positive responses. People liking the gear, liking the shirts. So, again, Just Heart Apparel. Go check them out. Quantel, thank you. Looking forward to getting the rest of the wrestling gear in for the team stuff. And, hey, just basically a thanks to everybody who's kind of supported.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jeremiah. We got your shirt in the mail for you. Coming out to you. I've actually got to place an order for some more soap coming up real soon. It's kind of one of those weird things. Like, gotten so used to using soap, I was like, oh my gosh, I've handed out like a few bars and given them to other people. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be out of soap. I need, well, not out of soap, but we still have soap in the house, but we're, out of the roll soap. So, yeah, so I just kind of got used to the way it feels and everything else. So, for those of you who don't know, go to fractalbjj.com.
Yeah, and I think the coupon codes are still the same.
Cerebrus Wrestling.
Yeah.
Go get 10%. Go get a bar or 12 of soap, preferably 12.
Buy for your entire team.
Go check it out. Good stuff there. But yeah, so, good responses. People love the gear. We're getting shout outs from people. They're liking the podcast. Hopefully, this just continues to grow and continues to become more and more of its own entity. More and more we talk about it with different people explaining, from episode 1 with the three-headed dog was at first just a cool design, something that I'd worked on. I'd mentioned to Tyler, said, if I ever had a club or something, it'd be cool to have this. I think it would look neat on singlets and, fight shorts and shirts and all that kind of stuff. And then, the more we talked about it, and we're like, hey, why don't we just make that the logo for the show?
So I think we started, when you mentioned it to me, as far as the club thing went, I think you mentioned it to me we were leaving Wild Wings one day, maybe.
Yeah, very possible.
It might have been after one of Jared's fights or something, and we stopped by there because I just remember we were driving downtown and you mentioned it because we were talking about club teams and you were talking about names, and then you mentioned Cerebrus, three-headed dog, and then I think from there it just kind of like snowballed.
Yeah, we already were like 20 shows deep in by then at least minimum. Of just talks and and then us finally decided to go ahead and record and having the logo and doing some different things, and like I said, just becoming its own entity. Being able to have the space in the garage to, who knows, it might be that space that you were talking about might become a reality at some time in the future where have an actual, storefront space, to be able to do some things, which would be, would be killer. Really would be. So, all those type of things,
Talk about dream type stuff. That's it right there.
So, and like I said, just enjoying the support so far. Still got people asking, hey, when are the shorts coming out? Because they like the designs for them so much, So like I said, we'll hopefully at some point start getting some pre-orders for that in and be able to order some shorts with them,
Oh yeah, because they had a really cool design for shorts. So
yeah, really like it. So
yeah, if we can just get some
that,
guys to pre-order.
Wear it in our tech class. Again, have more people out. Hey, whose team is that? And then word of mouth. I think it's just kind of like, yeah, go check out their podcast. Literally, just Cerebrus Wrestling. Type it in, YouTube, wherever you listen to. We're basically based off of Anchor, which pushes it out to everybody, whether it be iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Castbox. It's made this part of it so much easier, and it's kind of a part that we worried about at first. Like, how are we going to do this? Like, how are we going to distribute it, how we can do stuff. So that part's been really, really cool.
And you're
So.
right about it, talking about kind of being like an entity of its own. I mean, not only a lot of people, look at us now and they see, Cerebrus Wrestling, but I mean, they don't realize at the end of the day how we started it out and what we do is, with an actual school. And this was just kind of a product of that, but now it's kind of like some people, I'm not saying everyone, but some people kind of look and they no longer see like a McCracken type thing. It's like, oh, that's like Cerebrus type. There's like Cerebrus guys, and it's kind of a cool thing, like you said. It is becoming an entity of its own to an extent, and it's awesome to see how much it's grown just in the past year.
Yeah, because it's really cool. Established 2018, and look, we're coming up at the end of 2018, so basically a year strong, and hopefully many more years strong, and it'd be really cool to like look back down the line and look back and see the shirts that say 2018 on them. And that kind of
2028.
Being a significant number to us, I think, at some point in time, which would be really kind of cool. So, but yeah, so we had a good tournament this past weekend. Like I said, worked on just mentioned a few things in our tech cast that we just went over. A lot of it's just middle school stuff, effort. Some of it's just like the locking hands things of that nature, is what it is. But hopefully,
nerves.
Nerves. Hopefully some people enjoy the little tech videos and can. Hey, what are my guys missing or something like that for like the younger guys? Like, hey, that's a really simple fix, So if we can help not just our guys alone, but anybody, coming on up into it, and then eventually, like, as we continue to do the tech cast, that might be one of those things that people can be like, as we're having kind of trying to progress sequentially. We're not trying to jump around too much all over the place, but eventually, we'll be showing some stuff, and hopefully people can be like, hey, what about this? And we can be like, hey, go check out TechCast episode 15, or 3 or 2, or hey, like we had a really good one. Let's revisit that one. We can do another one, something like that. So that'll be kind of cool to see how our TechCasts grow. Our subcasts, I think, are kind of cool. There's something unique and to our show that I think is really kind of cool, that we have a regular episode, and then either one of us can do our little subcast episodes, which are significantly shorter. Although our show is significantly shorter than most of Tyler's shows on his channel.
Which I think I'm going to start cutting it down to that hour just to save time, and also because what I was telling you about earlier with that offer I got, I want to see how much I can squeeze into an hour in a. And like the more I think about it, it's just like an hour time frame is better. I mean, I get a lot of the ones that stretch on are just because I get carried away.
Yeah.
You start talking
to
somebody.
It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. You start forgetting that you're actually on recording now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh goodness.
Yeah. I like to keep ours like for this one.
Yeah.
I think between 30, 45 minutes is normal. We've had a couple that have gone an hour or so.
Yeah, I think the longest we had was like an hour 10 maybe.
Yeah, and I think maybe one of our shorter ones was maybe 20 or 25 minutes. So I think that's a good time frame for ours, for our viewers, and then our subcasts hitting on average right around 7 to 10 minutes. It's kind of a little bit quicker techcast. So I think we're trying to get a lot out there, so it's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
But let's go to wrestling talk, as we said. Couple different things. I guess the biggest highlight that we mentioned was Kyle Cannell. He is out for the season, having surgery of some sort. I don't know if it's elbow or shoulder or what it is. He just wasn't right earlier in the year. But the saddest part to me is the fact that most people automatically go to trying to get a medical red shirt, and his statements all have been like, done for the year, not sure if I'm going to return again. Think I might be done. And maybe it's just been for his health and for the better, and the stress that wrestling takes on people, it takes its toll. It's hard on people. So I think that whatever ailments he may have, best of luck to Kyle Cannell and his future. Hopefully you recover quickly. If you choose not to pursue continuing to wrestle, this kind of leads into what we were talking about the other day. I'm sure he'd find a way to give back to wrestling as well, whether it be coaching or something else.
I can see him being a really good coach.
This is what we were talking about before, which maybe might just turn into the episode. So we had a conversation the other day about finishing your competitive career, not necessarily on a high note, doesn't mean that your wrestling career is over, period. Nor is it over on that second place finish or that fourth place finish. And the reason why I say second or fourth is because maybe that person who finishes their last match of their competitive career first, obviously finished out on top. They probably achieved whatever goal it was they were achieved, whether it be high school, whether it be college, or whatever it be, wherever it may be. But if you finish second or fourth, that means the final match of your senior year or whatever it was probably ended in a loss.
Yeah.
And well, not probably, you did end in a loss. But what I said about that was I think it's an interesting thing to note that just because you didn't end as a national champ, just because you weren't that top tier NCAA caliber wrestler, just because you maybe your career ended in high school, doesn't mean that your love or passion for this sport has to be any less than the top level,
Yep.
NCAA champs, 3-time, 2-time, 4-time NCAA champs, Olympic gold medalists. Doesn't mean that your passion or drive to want to give back to the sport itself is any less. Do you have as much under your belt as far as achievements and accolades and other stuff? No, maybe not. But we can't all be Cael Sanderson. We can't all be the Brands. We can't all be, the top guys in the sport. The reason why they're the top guys is because they were better than everybody else thought. If everybody else, that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, whether it's at that level or high school level or whichever level, doesn't mean that my love for the sport is any less than somebody else's love for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that my desire to want to instill the things that we have all learned from wrestling is any less. If anything, the way I perceive it is that maybe I want to that much more a little bit. Maybe I'm still in love with the sport, maybe just a little bit more because I didn't get to that final achievement. I didn't get there. So now I don't want to live through others, but I still just have that desire and that burn to want to compete, to want to do it, just that little bit more than maybe somebody who did finish out on top. Like they kind of, you achieve your goal, you're ready to sit at the top of your mountain.
Yeah.
I can say we in the sense that I was never a 4-time NCAA champ. Heck, I'm not afraid to mention it. I didn't make it to NCAAs. I didn't even win my conference in college. I can say that Tyler and I are not 4-time NCAA champs. If we were to lie to you and tell you that, you would call us in a heartbeat, and our show would not be what it is because we would be a bunch of I guess in lack of better terms, liars and BSers and other things.
Yeah, we'd be frauds.
But frauds, there we go. But I think our passion, our desire, we're not at the top of the mountain. We still want to continue to climb the mountain, not just for, I think it's kind of a cool thing, but as you become a coach, you no longer want to climb for yourself, but you want to climb for your team, with your team. You want to do those things for them and lead them to the success to
you mentioned it, and that's one thing I was thinking about while you were talking is just you don't necessarily, it's not like you're living vicariously through someone else at this point when you're coaching. It's almost like you remember, especially if you were to make it that far and finish second place or fourth place, but you remember the feeling of unaccomplished goals, and you want to do whatever you can to make sure that every guy on your team accomplishes everything that they want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
That's as a coach, that's almost like what we strive to do. It's like, if you want to win state, we will do whatever we can to help you with this.
Yeah, we want to help you get that. At the same time, knowing that, hey, not everybody can do it, but we want to put you on the track, knowing that you did everything that you could do, that we're learning what we can, and that's why we say we're still learning to this day too.
We watch videos all the time. Different techniques, different ways of doing things. I'm not ashamed to admit it. For the longest time, there was, and I've kind of, I don't want to say I've gone back on it, but still to this day, a lot of the time, especially when I do grappling nowadays, I learned an arm drag for someone younger than me. He was Zach Clary when he was holding that clinic at Dorman that one year. Wow, I think it was like my second year coaching with you. But anyway, the way he showed his arm drag, and I was just like, man, I really like the way he does that. And I started toying around with it, and I ended up really liking it. I still use it to this day. You're never gonna have the overall knowledge of everything. So it's always good to have.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I think it's also sometimes beneficial to be that way because sometimes, like when you're at the top of your game, you're at the top of your thing, you think you may not have anything more left to learn. And I'm just speaking generally. I don't honestly know somebody, or I'm sure there are other people and other coaches who've been around a little bit longer than we have that can probably name other coaches that think that they are God's gift and they think they don't have to anymore. I haven't run into any of them personally, so I can't say. But I'm sure there are people that are that
Yeah.
way, that when you get to the top, you think that everybody is beneath you and that you have nothing else to learn. Those are the type of coaches that I'm sure can show a lot, but they're gonna eventually get kind of stuck in a rut.
They're going to
gonna
turn
be a
people
point,
away. And,
or there's gonna be eventually a time with the evolution of everything, whether it be somehow through training and other things, things will change and they will eventually be surpassed.
Yeah.
And they're just not willing to learn and go through it. I think that willingness to learn allows us to be better coaches, hopefully, for our athletes and for those around us and just in general.
Yeah, weirdly enough, this sounds exactly like I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and it was something to do. She was asking about something. I think she was needing help with an exam topic about teamwork, and that was one thing I mentioned. I was like, when you have a team, you can actually, if you're by yourself, your idea, you're always going to picture it as the best possible solution or the best possible way of doing it. But if you have a team, and same with coaching and wrestling, is if you have multiple people around you and people who are trying to get better, you can start taking bits and pieces from everything else and developing an overall strong game. Because whereas you might have had a solid game yourself, taking this little bit from this person over here or listening to this person, helping you get up off bottom, adding all these small things together makes like a perfect little ball, and then it's just something you can push down the top of the mountain, and it's an avalanche or snowball effect type thing.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. I mean, it's not just as far as teamwork goes. I mean, this is the same in learning. I mean, the more you learn, the more you can take bits and pieces of where your shortcomings are. I mean, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Hey, just like we said in wrestling the whole time, wrestling is more than just wrestling. It's taking those skills and those things that we learn, philosophies in wrestling, and applying it to like almost every aspect of our lives. Hey, and if we can do that, I think we'll be good and successful people all around, not just on the mat, but off the mat as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, there goes that little complete tangent that we didn't actually mean to get into. We kind of talked about it the other day, like it would make kind of a cool episode talk about. And I think we kind of hit it in a fairly
Did we already talk about Canelo?
We just mentioned it, kind of led into it. So
I'm okay. So back on the Canelo thing,
hopefully
it's to me it's a little sad. Not sad that it's sad like he can't hack it. I mean, because that's not true. It's sad to the point that he absolutely can. It's just sad that seems like it's been everything that's happened recently, that he just cannot have any worse luck.
I mean, but there's always going to be somebody that's that way. I'm sure there's been NFL players, NBA players, baseball players.
Never stay healthy.
There's always that person that was so good, but the story of their career is riddled with injuries.
There's a running back for the Chiefs years ago, Christian Okoye. People said that he could have been like one of the top running backs in the league, but he just couldn't stay healthy.
I mean, and after so many surgeries and beatings and and bumps and bruises, I mean, there's only so much that the human body can endure and take, and we've already, I believe, as wrestlers, probably surpassed the average threshold for many just on the regular person, more or less the person that is getting injuries. So their level of stuff is just now it's also looking at like quality of life, like hey, you want to have a quality of life and be able to walk and do things later on in life.
At the same time, I wonder how that's gonna everyone. Those of you who already know, it's no secret he has battled with depression. I'm just really.
I'm hoping
I'm nervous that this doesn't trigger a bout of
some sort of depression, or hopefully I mean, like I said, we don't know him personally or anything like that, but hopefully maybe, and I'm sure he's got good people around him and helping him get through it, and maybe that this is kind of like that whole battle injury, like, hey, let's get you just healthy, 100% healthy, and then that way your mind can stay focused and positive as well, will probably be a big thing. So, other than that, we've got a lot of it's not just Canelo that was out. We talked about, didn't we talk about Kemmer being out last time?
No, we did not. We talked about that in the school, though.
So, I mean, it seems to be one of those things, but I think we did talk about this. It seems to be the nature of this year so far. We've had lots of injuries, unfortunate ones. Seth Gross, Michik was out. I don't know what was up with him. Soriano wanted a piece of him, basically called him out. But if it's legit, it's legit. If it's not, they're like, he was like, if it's legit, it's legit. If it's not, it's not.
I'm not saying anything, but it wasn't bad enough for him not to travel. just say that.
And I heard he warmed up with the team too.
Yeah. I mean,
so
but I'm
if you're there-
not going
Yeah,
to say
I don't
anything
know.
because I'm a Michigan fan. So
I know, but he was there warming up,
it
But
doesn't
but
look
who
good on
knows?
the surface.
I mean, but we've had those injuries. I mean, Spencer Lee looked off. He was flu-like symptoms when he just had to hold off a match to keep it a major.
Stoll was injured early on.
Stoll's injured. Shot himself over the summer.
Did you see him? He when he came back on the mat against Iowa State, he came to Coach Branson and was like, "I'm coming out there," and he was like, "I don't want this." And he just kept looking at him. He's like, "I don't want this, but go ahead."
Yeah, it's kind of like how much that was staged. Somebody said, "I don't care how much." It was still great. It was awesome. It was fun. It was entertaining. It was cool to see. Marinelli still has the big brace on. I don't know if he'll forever wrestle with that, but apparently there's been like a lot of injuries. It's unfortunate, but it is what our sport is.
Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting to think about, like, with how awesome our wrestlers are getting and how hard they're able to push themselves. We haven't had anything like the NFL where they've gone to, like, wrestling is kind of weird in and of itself, but it's not like we've added more things to it. With football, when they added the Thursday night games, when they started making the season like 1 or 2 games longer and all that kind of stuff,
And the preseason.
and the preseason long, we saw a dramatic increase in injuries. It only makes sense. I'm just wondering, like, with the way wrestling is going, is there still not something that needs to be done? Like, are we that much more headed toward a 1-semester sport starting later on in the year, so that these guys coming in off of high school, like, half these guys now are so good, they're going to worlds, they're going to all these things, they're wrestling over the summers, the freestyle stuff. It's almost like there's not enough downtime for them to get their bodies to actually heal and prep for the longest, most grueling, intense thing that there is, which is the college wrestling season.
Well, see, and this is going to sound really... I'm not blaming him at all for this, but to me, and I mean, this is pure just speculation, a lot of this I don't want to say comes from, because it's been around before too, but I feel Kyle Snyder, I don't want to say is the reason, because he's not the reason, but a lot of people look at him, he's the role model, and everyone wants to be at the top, and they realize if they want to be at the top, they're going to have to outwork him. Some people's bodies are just not made to work that hard. That dude is a freak. And I'm not saying that's the reason. I'm just saying I feel like that's one thing.
I'm just saying, though, like,
these guys,
his body was able to do it and do that, but, like,
these guys want to be
does there
the
need
next
to be
phase.
more separation? Are we looking at a critical time in our wrestling world where do we need a break? Is there that much more reason to push this to start wrestling second semester, after Thanksgiving, after Christmas, let these guys go do worlds, go do summer, do all this stuff, come back, let them eat Thanksgiving for real.
For once.
And let them heal their bodies. And then go into a season.
I guarantee you, some of these guys probably haven't had a legitimate Thanksgiving meal since they were in like middle school.
Man, I didn't know what it was like in high school.
Goodness. And I agree. I think, and this is, we're kind of getting off another tangent. I think making wrestling a second semester sport would be very advantageous to us, because not only, what's the problem with our sport right now is that we, starting in this first semester, like towards the end, is we're going up against football a lot of the times.
Yeah, you're waiting and doing all that, especially in high school and whatnot.
Football is going to be the biggest, battle as far as like head-to-head on TV.
What is it, Buggy?
So if we're battling with football for TV spots, I mean, not saying that if we go to a second semester sport that we're automatically going to be all over ESPN and stuff, but at least we would have more of a chance to be put on primetime TV slots like NBC, like NBC, Big Ten stuff, and all that good stuff. And I mean, like I said, this is just my thought. I mean, but I feel that moving to that second semester,
I think there's a lot of benefits to doing it. And, I think I'll be curious to see. We can't say we're bugged anymore because we are putting it out there on the podcast. But like, I'm waiting to see who says that next. Like, is another reason to move it to second semester.
It'll be on flow by the end of the week.
The injuries and the bodies needing rest and all that kind of stuff. So, that being said, I think it's a legit another reason to move it that way.
I mean, but do you not see it possibly opening up a TV deal too? I mean, like I said, for like NBC, ESPN2 or something. Because at that point, most of the football is done other than bowl games, and no one cares about the small bowl games. You have basketball, which you can air on 2 channels.
No, the basketball is all feels like it's year round too. It seems.
It does, but I'm saying you could air it on maybe just like ESPN or something. Like
No.
there's a way
Anything
that
that
if we
would
did
get
this,
us more airtime.
exposure. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's something we could do. So if we do go to that second semester, I mean, I don't see.
I mean,
why
I
not.
think it's going to. I just don't know when. There seemed to be a lot of talk about it for a while, and then just lately we just haven't heard anything about that. So I am curious to see if that talk will increase again, or what the reason for us not hearing that talk right now. Like, why haven't they been talking about it as much as they used to?
They were waiting to hear what we thought.
There you go. Move it, second semester, and yeah. So go ahead. You have our blessing. So, like, that's all it took.
Like we're the kingpins of wrestling.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, we just don't know it.
We're making all the calls here. We're just keeping it interesting for everybody else.
Yeah.
So they just don't know it yet.
Man, these guys they're psychic.
So
Yeah, that's what it is.
yeah. All right. Well, what about this? So we talked about this the other day, and the headline is Marinelli bullies his way to victory. You've heard the term a lot. Like, I think they've used it with Marinelli, with Siriano, and I want to give credit where credit's due. Looking at Flo's headline right there, Gable, they're all like use the term like bullying their opponent, and I don't frankly have a problem with it. I just think it's an interesting term to be used in today's day and time, where yes, bullying is wrong, like especially in the school sense and the nature of things. And all that kind of stuff. But I just think it's kind of funny how easily it's also used in our sport.
Yeah.
You know, and it be almost like admirable. You know, like
I
it's
guess
a good
because
thing.
I guess
Like,
because at its core,
like we've talked about it. Like
Yeah.
our sport, we want to dominate our opponent. We want to impose our
Yeah.
will on them.
because at its core,
you know.
this is a very physical sport. It's about as close to a fight as you're gonna get without fists, and that's why I think.
Although occasionally there are a few of those thrown.
Yeah, occasionally. But even some submissions. But at the end of the day, I think that's what it's so close to an actual fight. I almost take it as a term of respect in a way. Like when you bully someone, that means that you're being
you're
physically
completely dominated. Yeah.
to
So
the point where they think this is just bullying.
I don't have a problem with it used in our sport and the way that it's used, almost like you said, as a term of endearment in
Especially
a way.
with Marinelli. If you watch him wrestle, that's probably the most accurate depiction of
it really
his
is.
matches.
Like, oh man, that foot sweep on that last match was a thing of
Yeah,
beauty.
he had
like,
him up in the air off both feet.
he just had him as a
No,
foot.
that's
I
what
mean,
I'm
he
saying. And
literally
the guy's
swifted.
feet came off the ground.
I
and
mean,
he's just like,
he just literally was not expecting it. You know, so in this case, I don't mind it. I do think it's kind of funny where some of the things are like the head mush and other things like that. And there's so many people that don't like it and don't think it's good. Well, one, we teach our guys, don't get your head mushed into the ground, you know.
keep your head up. You don't
Keep
have
your
that
head up, you know, strong neck, head up. Granted, it is easier said than done when you have somebody like Gable Stevenson pushing your head down like that. I do think it was funny that, like, on those comments and other things like that, there are very few people that can actually say that they aren't about that life. Like, I think Bryce Meredith is one. Like, you ain't pushing my head down without catching something.
Yeah.
And he can back it up because I think that happened with him and Chad Red last year. Like, they almost got into the altercation because one was trying to be that way. And, you know, and the crazy thing is, Bryce Meredith is one of the great, respectful, you know, awesome guys. And he's like, it ain't happening to me. And he can back it up because no, it was not happening
He's
to
an
him.
alpha male. He wants to be the alpha male, and sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yep. So I just think it's an interesting terminology, the way it's used. I don't think that it is in any means derogatory or insensitive to the way some people outside of our sport might take it. So I think we're good there in that sense. I also find it interesting that with that term,
Can Trina Nick stay here while their dad goes to Costco? We're not gonna bother you.
yes, ma'am. You guys can play. Okay. So, where was I with that? Oh, like the whole bullying and snowflake thing. And this is, we're kind of going off on a little side tangent here.
That's three this episode.
Yeah, that is 3. I was gonna call this episode "Climbing the Mountain" or something, but maybe like
ADD or ADHD.
Call it 3.
Oh, look at that.
We'll call it 3. 3 sideshow. But anyway.
Distractions.
Yeah, we'll just call it 3. We had three good ones. All right, so what I was gonna say is like in today's day and time where everybody is so worried about like, okay, how do I say it? So check it. So we were just talking about how bullying is a good term, blah blah blah, like that. In our sport, it's a good terminology. It's a good way to be. It's okay. We're both okay with that. And you have all these people nowadays who get their feelings hurt at every last little thing, blah 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 blah. All right. I've almost started to see like a shift in things, like where those people who get offended by the people that take things too softly or they want to call people snowflakes are almost like, I think their feelings are getting hurt because they're like, there's too, like, they're overcompensating, like calling everybody snowflakes and this and that, and like, and they're like, well, if it's not hurting anybody, blah blah blah, or this. I'm like, I'm starting to see a shift of like those people that are like quote unquote the snowflakes, or maybe some people are finally like just not saying anything, like it's not hurting their feelings, but yet the people who want to think that they're old school or think they're that way are more fishing and looking for it. So I don't really take that.
It's a virtue signaling type thing. Like, look, I'm not offended by this. I'm not offended by that.
I'm not. Yeah,
that's what
but
it is.
really, you kind of are. Or why are you like making that much drama to it? Or why are you calling everybody else a snowflake for it? When slow down a little bit. Somebody tried to make a valid point, and your first thing is to call them a snowflake now.
Yeah.
Just because that's kind of like the in thing to call a millennial and this and that or whichever. It's like it's almost. I think people are just jumping to the other end so quickly, so fast that they're not even willing to. They're their own problem, because before it used to be like, hey, you're calling somebody something, but it used to be like, hey, what happened? You used to be saying, what happened to having a discussion? In our day, we could talk it out. We could figure it out. We could do this.
Yeah.
Well, now you're not even listening. Now you're just as bad, except you're on the other end. So you sound kind of like a bully and whatever else you want to call you.
There's no middle ground, and that they're not going to find a middle ground until they both decide to listen. But
I was just wondering if you noticed that too.
Like, no, I do. Like, there's a lack of communication on both ends of the spectrum, and I think a lot of it from one side you have, and it is to an extent we can both admit it's very annoying when you have people who get offended at every little thing.
Every last little
thing.
Very
annoying, and a lot of it comes from lack of coping skills as a kid. They're getting like, and I'm not bashing. I'm not going to get into this rant, but like getting trophies for participation. That competition is a healthy thing.
It is.
You need to learn to cope with losing. Coping with losing, coping with getting hurt and falling. Not being bubble wrapped as a kid is very effective. And then on the other end, though, when you have people who are so close-minded
so
to
far
hearing
the other way,
it's like okay, you can be tough, but at the same time, you don't
like
have to keep
there's
a tough
a difference
facade.
of like, okay, I agree with the whole participation thing. Like everybody, you learn to win and lose and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got people that are so far the other way that like, hey, guess what? There's also this thing called motivation that apparently you or your child will never hear of because you weren't first, you're last, and now who wants to be with that all the time? It's a great saying for like shows and fun stuff, but the reality of it is you can't live that way either, because without any sort of motivation or desire or ability to think that you could ever achieve that, well then you're become a quitter for a whole nother reason.
Yeah, I mean,
you both end up with the same problem. You just both got there a different way, and now both of you have. I'm gonna say kids. Like we'll just use that. Like so, your kid sucks because he just got every trophy in the world. Your kid sucks because he's never gonna try again because he never got anything in the world.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. There's a
he was
middle
afraid
ground.
of getting yelled at by his dad, who's always telling him that he wasn't good enough. And that's the thing. It's you have.
I'm seeing more so now like. And this is just, I think, on some of the social media stuff. I'm just now getting more annoyed. At first, I was more annoyed with everybody complaining and whining.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting more annoyed with everybody whining about the complainers and whiners.
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute. They're whining and complaining too. So maybe that's what it is. I'm just tired of the whining and complaining.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just noticing that as I look at different things. I'm like, wow.
Because it's on one end, you have people who are, who are just... I hate to use it. They're just kind of pansies to an extent, but on the other end, you have people who are overcompensating, acting like they've never been hurt. It's like, oh, I've always been tough. No, you have not, and you're not listening to other people. Because at the end of the day, you still have to have some sort of compassion. There's a middle road that we all need to travel, and both sides are just equally closing their ears, yelling la 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 la, not listening to each other. And until that changes.
Hey.
it's
All
gonna
right,
be the
so
same
that
way.
one was a completely way off far side rant on that. Like it was just something we saw. But for our world, go ahead, Marinelli. Be a bully everybody on the mat.
I enjoy it.
We enjoy it. It's okay. We know what it means. It's not being like a bully, like mean and spiteful. It's being a bully to impose your will on somebody and show them that 2 men enter, 1 man leave, Thunderdome style wrestling. And that's what it is.
It's like one of our guys this weekend. He, we were sitting here, we were talking after a match, and he comes up to me and he's like, "Yeah, coach, I was worried I was getting too friendly with the guy." And for anyone who coaches middle schoolers, even high school to an extent, you'll know that a big problem is all you guys will be like, "Who am I wrestling?" Or they'll go talk to their opponents, and not saying it.
I'm not saying
friendly.
you can't do
Yeah,
that.
not saying you can't
It
do
just
it.
depends on the mindset on which you want to be.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, when it becomes a problem where they're doing it to comfort themselves, so they're kind of nervous, and then this also happens when you go out there and you get too friendly.
It's that
with someone.
psychological thing.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt
So-
a friend. So, and he told me, he's like, I was getting too friendly with him, and he's like, so I just walked away from him. I was like,
Go ahead.
yeah, good for you.
I was know you're talking about. Go watch the Mako miniseries.
Yeah.
Mako says the same stuff too. So, but yeah, great stuff there. I completely agree. I don't know. Looking up, there's some more wrestling come. Devin was asking about it. He was like, "When's Southern Scuffle?" I'm like, "Dude, come right up around the corner.
Yeah.
Right after Christmas. We have the Southern Scuffle. Midlands is coming up. NATO's back. He's gonna wrestle at Midlands. I want to know if Ben Askren is still gonna wrestle at Midlands. He said he was going to, but with his fight coming up, I don't know. I'd still love to see him back in a singlet again, wrestling.
Didn't NATO last year, wasn't he out for about the same?
Yeah, another one. He went through his career. I think it was knee surgery, or he had surgery of some sort. He was lucky enough to make it through his career though. With I'm
Because
sure
he
he was
did the
banged
same
up
thing last year. Last year, his first match back was when they
in December
wrestled.
because he was out for the
Minnesota.
first half with a lower body injury, if I
And
remember right.
we were joking if it could have been the weight cut issue, but no, I think at the end of the day it was.
I think it was back, so maybe that was back or knee because he did have surgery.
No, I mean we were joking about it being weight cutting issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could have been. I wonder if that's like.
So again, back to our one of our initial discussions on the injuries, like how much is this season taken on these guys and to put them through the wintertime grind of things and and just all those practices and hard and like time off is a good thing. So like if we have that longer time off, they can have a surgery at the end of their season. You don't have to worry about being back on the mat again until December when you're starting your preseason training. And then back
And
to
even
competition
that for
in
the guys who
January.
are cutting weight, like guys who could cut a tremendous amount of weight.
It's a long time.
Yeah,
It's
the
just
fact
a
that
better.
you're having to maintain
I think
it
it's just a
throughout
nicer
the
amount of time
season.
to hold off on that. So, but yeah. So minus injuries, I think season's been rolling. We've seen a lot of good wrestling, a lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna have to say, I don't know if I mentioned it before online. You did. You were like, hey, you thought Iowa State was gonna be a whole lot better of a duel than I thought it was gonna be. Iowa was a phenomenal duel.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about rivalries and all that, and I said, it's a better rivalry when both teams are better. Man, and that time was a case where you were right, I was wrong. Like, it didn't matter if on paper Iowa was that much better than Iowa State. It was a great duel. It came down to DeSanto getting off his back to keep him getting pinned for Iowa to win the duel.
Yeah, what
it was
the
exciting.
final overall score?
I think the team won by they had to pin DeSanto in order to win the duel.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as he didn't get pinned, they were fine.
And that's the thing. It's
Man.
not only do I feel that Iowa State.
Man.
Iowa
what
State.
a duel, and what a duel to come the next couple years.
Like Iowa State is, they've got a lot of young talent. I mean, the new coach is bringing in a bunch of new guys.
I meant to put something on there. I meant to take a picture of it and be like, man, it's different seeing Metcalf in Carver Hawkeye Arena, not in blue and not blue and gold at Chattanooga.
Black and gold.
Go. Rep C. But not in black and gold instead. So that was quite interesting.
No, it is, and then you're seeing him in it's not like you're just seeing him
hyped
in.
up too, and he's
You're
cheering
not
for his guys.
It's not just like you're seeing him in different colors, but you're seeing him in rival colors. That's like Babe Ruth going to he was with the Red Sox or Yankees first, and then he went to the other. It's like seeing, John
It's been
Schaefer,
like okay, let's see,
Richard Sherman going to
the 49ers.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting to see him in 49ers.
Yeah, it's
colors.
kind of like, oh, we hated you for a long time, but
Yeah.
now you're here. What do we?
It'd been like if I don't know where, I think your brother posted something on. It'd been like the quarterback from Clemson if he'd gone.
Yeah,
to
if
the
you were going
Gamecocks.
to Carolina, exactly. Yeah.
It'd been like, whoa, he went there, or Dabo someplace. What if
Yeah.
Dabo's son went to Carolina and played?
Yeah.
Not that Dabo, I think, would have been objective. They didn't like, my son's going to get an education when he wants to get a good education. This program.
Yeah.
He'd have all the right things to say. But it still would be interesting to see that person
Yeah.
in the other person's colors. So I think that would be kind of crazy
But yeah,
to see.
I just think not only does Iowa State have the young talent, the new coaches, new mentality,
Mm-hmm.
but also, I mean, when it comes to rivalry matches, it's like a different entity.
It really is.
always
And that one I did not expect it to be that way. I was wrong. Man, was it ever.
Yeah.
It was something else. It was really cool. So, but all right. We're good for today then?
Yeah, I think
All right.
we've 40
minute
minutes
mark.
covered.
Cool. I'm
everything.
gonna chop these up, put them together. This one and the tech cast. Get those both up for you guys tonight, so you guys have some entertaining stuff to see. If we have a delay or anything tomorrow morning, I don't know. It's there's some spots where it might be a little bit delay worthy or not. But if we well, it was snowed out. We couldn't really get together. It'd been cool to have this up for everybody to enjoy over the snow days. But for everybody else, check these when they come up, and we will.
Bye bye.